Hello, and welcome once again to the How Long to Beat podcast. As always, joining me, Rick, is Alex.
Hello.
And Paula.
Hey there.
And this week, we've got fucking loads of games to talk about. So, lots of completions, mostly me. Lots of retirements, again, mostly me. Lots of currently playing games, mostly not me. So, sort of balanced across the way. And the topic this week is even more games. We're returning to something we tried a little while back where we're going to recommend each other games, recommend games to each other. And then we'll finish off with even more games, or one more game specifically, in the latest rendition of How Long to Beat The Game. And let's jump straight in. Why don't you two start off in terms of the beaten games? Because you've both talked, or both beaten. Wow, I'm doing very well here. You've both played games within the same series. Paula, why don't you kick us off?
So this was a journey, quite a journey indeed. I finished the whole Giftscape collection, all 9 games, between the last recording and this one. And boy, what a trip it was. Especially because of how trippy some of the stuff is in these games. Like, oh my god, some of the puzzles were really out there. I'm trying to think what the overall story is. I kind of know, and it is actually related to the game that I played last time, that is the White Door. As some event that happened and sent you to the game in the White Door. The White Door is the same event you're investigating here. That's all I can say. And I have to say, one of my favorite, if not my favorite, it has to be, was it Harvey's Box? Because
that's the bird one,
you are
right?
in a box. Yeah, that's the bird one. And I found it to be like so unique compared to the others because a scale pretty much. Everything is gigantic compared to you. So they had to be like more creative on how they approach like the, I guess the structure of the thing, or how to make you use some of the stuff over there. I haven't played Paradox. I mean, I played chapter 1, and then I noticed I had to pay for chapter 2, and I already my gaming budget already went down the drain, so I have to wait for a month before getting that. Even though it's very cheap, but I have to be very strict with my budget because reason. The first part was amazing. Top notch Rusty Lake. And yeah, I really like the games, even though some of them, which ones did I rate lower? Like there are a couple of them that were more like meh, like they felt quite repetitive, or like quite what's the word I'm looking for? Like compared to the other ones, I felt less inspired.
I felt like that about the mill one.
Yeah, the mill one in particular.
I thought that was like the worst of all of them. It just was like, I've seen all of these puzzles in other Rusty Lake games, and it's like, this was a hit and a miss.
Yeah, and the other one that was more interesting, but a little bit more of a pain in the ass to play, was the cave, the one in the submarine.
Yeah, it's cool, but you're right, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, like the third or fourth time that you have to navigate the deep part of a lake or the ocean, I don't know what you're supposed to be navigating.
Well, the lake, right?
That was like,
lake.
okay, it's probably the lake, but the third or fourth time that I was going through the motions, it was like, okay, I get it. Can it be any faster, please? But the idea was pretty cool, I have to say.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest weakness of the collection, is that, like, I'm sure had you played these, because I don't know how long it took in between them. I'm sure it took not super long. But like, I have a feeling more distance between each one probably helps these games a lot. Because yeah, they don't necessarily fully repeat, but you're totally right that you do get to a point in a few of them where you are sort of repeating aspects of puzzles that just get a little tedious. You're like, okay, I fucking get it. You're like, let's move on a little bit.
Like in one hand, if you play them like with some days or months between them, you don't feel like the same tiredness after repeating the same kind of puzzles over and over again. But in my opinion, I think there's some specific games that they expect you to play like back to back, because the puzzle of the game, or like there's a specific puzzle in one game that refer back to another event of the prior game, and there were like some of the extra trophies that you could only like remember to get, or Easter eggs, more like trophies, like Easter eggs that you will only be able to solve if you played the prior game relatively like not as long ago, and or you have taken notes of your puzzle solutions.
And to be fair, I don't think anyone understands what's going on in this game.
That's kind of the point, yeah.
Yeah.
They're veiled in mystery very much intentionally.
Yeah. Very Twin Peaks.
They're still fun.
And I suppose that's an interesting sort of run on, because it looks like you've played both parts of Paradox, Alex.
Yeah, I played both, because I had this. Long story short, we let someone stay at our place, like a friend of ours, before they were moving somewhere for like a month or two, and I mean, we weren't even in town, but they left like a $25 gift card to like Google Play, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just use that to buy all the Cube Escape games. Because I wasn't gonna buy anything else on fucking Google Play. I was like, I don't buy anything on this ever. So I'm like, well, fuck it, might as well do this. So yeah, I went and I got that part there, and I watched the video, which they did a very good short film for that one actually, which I think might have been part of their Kickstarter, like stuff. I think, because I think most of these were Kickstarted, weren't they, or at least some of them were.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember seeing something along that line. I think this one in particular did, because there's like a shelf in there where there's just like a shit ton of Kickstarters that you have to like flick through, and you're like, oh my god, I get it. You fucking Kickstarted this. This is a shit reward. Don't fucking do this, developers. Don't put your Kickstarters in the goddamn game. It drives me crazy. I'm like, I don't give a shit. And even if I funded a game, I also would not give a shit. Put me in the credits, sure, but don't put me in the fucking game if it's gonna bother everybody. Now you're just making everyone else mad. Anyway, that's my rant. But I always need to sneak one in there. But these are really good. I won't lie to you. I used a guide for a lot of it, because man, it gets pretty fucking obtuse in this one. Because this one has you kind of swapping brains, which isn't a spoiler, because you will not understand what that means unless you play a game. But that mechanic is great. It's actually very cool, and it's awesome. But you just get to a point and you're like, I just don't care enough to like really dig into this and like try to figure everything out on my own. And also the problem was I had stopped playing for a bit, and then when you come back, you don't remember any of the logic of the things that you've done, right? And you don't know where you're at. So I was like, shit, I gotta grab a guide here. And then I figured out where I was, and I was like, okay, we're good. Plus some of them, okay, for the PC one, I think I can understand the idea of taking notes. But the problem is that it doesn't actually translate well to mobile, in the sense that you need to really take notes on stuff. And it's like, well, I can't really, I'm playing this on the go, man. I don't have my like notebook, and I'm gonna pull out your fucking start, you know what I mean? So it's like you're screenshotting shit, and then you gotta remember. And like my least favorite thing with puzzle solving is being required to memorize a sequence. I think it's really basic and lame puzzle design, because all it's requiring is you to remember something, right? And it's not even like complicated, because it's like, for me, my thing is like, I really love, there's a lot of puzzle games these days where when you actually find everything, it's like you've got it now, and you'll just go in and it can input it for you. And I really wish they had shit like that for this one, because I just think it doesn't cheapen the solving of the puzzle. And you could still make it so that it's like, not possible to, I don't know, solve it without like actually intentionally knowing it, right? Like you know, maybe you don't just get the clue when you open something, but like it would be nice if you had something where you could like open it up and like write down the thing that you need. You know what I mean? Like it just, I don't know, like it feels old to me in a not good way, you know? Like in times when I'm playing, I'm like, I really wish that we could get rid of this style of puzzle game, or at least this style of puzzle, I mean, not game. At least, at the very least, less of it, right? I don't want almost like there were at least like 10 or so times where I had to memorize a sequence. Like that, it was that much. To the point where you're like, is there anything else that we can do in here? Because when Rusty Lake is at its strongest is when it's doing these cool, fun things where you're like mixing components together and you're like finding like fun things and like, you know, rearranging stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's to me when it's at its like absolute like peak. So yeah, I felt really mixed bag with this one. I've been starting Rusty Lake Hotel. And those ones already feel like they're quite a step above the Cube Escape games in terms of complexity at the very least, because there's like story to it. I was like, oh wow, they're like actually attempting to put more story in this one here. Which I should probably put that on my playing because I'm doing that. You know what? No, I'm not gonna put it on there. We'll just say I talked about it now because I don't have a lot more to say about the game. In the fact that it's, you know, now is a better time to talk about it anyway. That essentially, you know, it just has a little more to it, right? Like you're going to different rooms, but you do get locked into them and have to solve it, which probably solves their brain bendingness of like, oh God, am I in the right one? And saves people from having to backtrack. But anyway, you know, it's funny. I talk about all this stuff, but like most of the complaints I have, it's just because like it's a good game, right? And like these are the things where, again, it's that common thing we've fallen into many times where it's like it's a great game. I just wish it was better. You know,
focus on the 2 that it missed rather than the 8 that it hit, almost.
Exactly, because yeah, I would honestly call them an 8. Like pretty much most of them are like 8 out of 10s for me. I mean, the collection, that's probably where I would put it. Though I think Paula's right that in the collection there's like a few that they're not that great. But yeah, as a whole, I mean, look, there's a lot of them. They're all escape room ones. They're mostly unique. It's an impressive achievement, you know? But then you compare it to things like The Room, and you're like, this is shite compared to that. So it's like, it's one of those things, right? Where, yeah, like I'd even argue, even The Room, which has problems with it, is miles above this series, like just miles. In terms of its storytelling, which is also archaic and also sort of kind of puts you out there a little bit. So yeah, I think also I don't think they've hired professional voice actors, and I really think they should. Because the voice acting is fucking shit, man. I'm sorry, it's really fucking bad. It's really bad. Like, and they distort it to save it a bit.
Though it is bad. Like there's no dispute on that. There, I do think there's a charm to it.
There's a charm, sure. There's a charm because it's bad. You know what I mean? Like, which is fine. That's fine. But I think something you need to ask maybe yourself a little bit is like, is that what I want my voice acting to be perceived as? You know what I mean? Like,
sure. I take the point.
Yeah. But anyway, is what it is. It's a fucking mobile game that you can play for free. You know what I'm saying? I mean, can't fucking complain that much. I did, but you can't really like take it. I did, and I will. But
you can, but you probably shouldn't. But
yeah, exactly. So it's like that's that. You know what I'm saying? That's where it is. But I gave them my money, so I feel like I could say a little bit. I bought all their stuff, so you know. So put it this way: they are the ones who can laugh. They got my money. Anyway, Rick, regale us with all this shit. Tell me about the one that I am very happy you played.
Well, I'll get to that one. I want to quickly clear out Wavetale first. So Wavetale is the first of 7 games that I finished since we last recorded.
Christ.
It's worth saying a couple of those are very, very small experiences. We'll get to them as we go. I'm going to hit them in the order that I beat them. The first of those is Wavetale, which is a game I was playing the last time we recorded. It gets a bit better. I know I was quite lukewarm on it last time. There does come a little bit of variety in the mission structure. There does come a little bit more variety in the enemy types. There's a couple of boss encounters that change things up a little bit, and the story goes in a predictable but somewhat interesting direction. I still don't think it's great. I think it's a really good sail game, and there is absolutely still a charm to surfing around on the water. It's got a very water world vibe, but particularly for a Switch game, the look and the physics and the feel of skating around on the water, the momentum you can get with some of the aerial stunts you can do, and the grapple maneuvers that unlocks for you. I do think there is a charm to it. I just wish I hadn't paid £20 for it. I think, half price sale, £10, £12, I think is a very fair price for sort of 4 to 5 hours of game. And it's nice that this team managed to get the game off Stadia, because that's not been true for everybody. Their game clearly wasn't as embedded into that system as others. They've been able to port it, and I'm glad that people do get to continue to experience this game. The second game I beat, and this is the one that Alex was alluding to moments ago, is Pixel Puzzle Makeout League. This is a game that you played, 6-7 months ago, Alex, and recommended to us both.
Might be even longer than that at this point, but
might be even longer than
that.
And this is the thing, I was off work for a couple of days and was trying to tidy up my computer, and I thought, well, that's taking 4 gigs of space on my SSD, and has been doing for a long time, and I should probably play it. And I have to say, I'm not nearly as warm on it as I think you were.
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
The pixel puzzling is quite good, but it's hard to get that wrong. People do get it wrong, but
they can get it wrong.
They can. And
they can.
I think it's a lot easier than you think. Yeah, yes, exactly. They shouldn't, but they do.
In this instance, the pixel puzzling is quite good. Everything around it is shit. This was my problem with it ultimately. So the whole conceit is, well, let's make a Picross game that has a central narrative and a story around it. And conceptually, I think that is an idea that shouldn't work. For the most part, doesn't work, but it's interesting that they managed to get as close as they did, because actually, as you're going through the visual novel segments, occasionally a puzzle will pop up, and you'll solve it, and the picture that puzzle creates is going to be thematically relevant to the conversation that they're having. And there's a token attempt to tie it into the narrative, in the sense that all of the main characters are superheroes named after a puzzle. So you play as Pixel Puzzle Girl, and then there's a character called Chess. 3 guesses what his puzzle thing is. Crossword, ditto. Sudoku, and an anthropomorphic puzzle piece called Picia, who made the least sense but probably was my favorite.
Oh, is easily the best of all of them.
There's a real consistent sort of lol random to her, but I think it works because of how straight it's played and how heavily they lean into it. The overarching narrative, I think, was an okay idea. I think it could have been followed through on. The writing is not good. And that sort of hamstrings the whole experience. Conversely, a little bit like Paradox, there's like a video at the end. There's like I don't think this is too much of a spoiler to say, that ties into the narrative. Reminds me a little bit of Welcome to Elk, and actually I think it would be an interesting counterpoint for you to go back and play that one, Alex, and see that almost from the inverse direction of the way that I've seen it. And I liked that part a lot, but I actually, for the most part, was skipping the story bits to get to the pixel puzzle bits.
Oh, I did that too. I skipped pretty much all of it.
But then if you're going to do that, why would you not download one of Jupiter's games for Switch or DS?
Because I've played all of Jupiter's games. You gotta understand, my dude. I've played all of them. I've 100%ed all of their games. That's the reason why I played Pixel Puzzle Makeout League. You play this game when you beat everything. I was like twitching, dude. I was like, I need more.
But for those of our audience who retain some of their sanity, go and play those and skip this one. If you do need another pixel puzzle fix, this is a good pixel puzzle stroke Picross game.
Yeah.
That component of it is good. The story is not, but the pixel puzzling is good. And again, it's... I keep saying the story's not good. There's a degree of frustration because it could have been. I actually like the angle they were going. they were way too overt with it and forceful. I think if you're a little bit more subtle about the way you name those characters and the way that you make other parts move around, there's certain reveals that are given way too early.
Well, they're not writers, that's for sure.
No, and it was clearly a very small team that made this game. At least one of the people who made it really wants to be a videographer. That much is clear. They needed a really good editor to tighten this up and move this stuff around. Last point on this before I move on. There is a really, really fun RuneScape-esque side quest that I had a blast with. I really, really liked that. I thought it was very clever the way that they implemented that. But go and find that bit on YouTube and then play a different Picross game, is my verdict on this. Game number 3 of 7, Beyond a Steel Sky. So this is like a sequel to Beneath a Steel Sky, about 25, 30 years hence. And it was a difficult one to play because so much of what this game does is basically worshipping the original. It's the worst kind of sequel from that perspective. And I haven't counted it as a completion because I played it with a walkthrough and just to sort of experience things again and did it very, very quickly. But I did go back and replay Beneath a Steel Sky after I finished Beyond a Steel Sky. One, just to appreciate just the level to which they've ensured that there's a consistency in that world and referred back to events and characters, but also just to understand from my own perspective whether it was fair for me to feel that this was a real step back from the original. I on reflection, it absolutely was. In every respect, I think the art is this awful, like halfway cel-shaded 3D thing with not nearly enough love given to animation. And it looks nice in moments, but it's not a patch on what the original had in terms of that pixel art. And you can tell that there are certain places that corners were cut in terms of skyboxes and things like that. The kind of corner cutting that is much more obvious in a 3D world with free camera movement, as opposed to sort of static single screen point and click. The story overall, I think, was good, but there are missteps. It's far clumsier and far more convoluted and presents more holes and questions and points of confusion to you than the original did. And at the same time, it relies utterly on you having played the original to have any kind of impact whatsoever. So it brings the main character from the original game back to Union City in universe about a decade to the events of the original game. And it does give you sort of an intro comic and a couple of little flashbacky bits to sort of fill a new player in. But I really do think that you have to have played the first to have any real understanding of the second. It's pivotal that you understand the way that that game ended, and not just from the little explainer they give you, but from a perspective of having done it. Because there are thematic points, there are event points that are skimmed over, but are actually sort of hugely relevant to things that go on. Key characters that come back who are big reveals, but don't have any impact whatsoever. If you didn't play the original, even as someone who played the original, there are a couple where I had to go back and double check. There's one character in particular who comes back first as a hologram and then as an actual character with a different hair color. So that's an attention to detail point that they missed that totally threw me off. And it's one that I only really got once I then went back and double checked the original game. So a point of weakness there. Quite a few of the puzzles. The one really, really bright spot that the new game has, it introduces a hacking tool in the form of a scanner. And I'd say half, maybe more than half of the puzzles in game rely on you utilizing this scanner to move around commands between different sort of Internet of Things technologies. And that is somewhat novel, not utilized to its fullest, but utilized well. And the puzzles that asked that of, they weren't necessarily particularly hard because of the way it's structured so as to A, make sense, and B, not just fall over immediately. It tends to be quite obvious what your solutions are once you've got things mapped together. And I think in a game maybe with more budget, more time, more focus, I would have liked them to have more capacity for you to do those bits incorrectly and get those bits wrong. As it stands, I think it's well implemented in the way that it is to the extent that it is. But the game as a whole just felt like a pale imitation of the original. And I think that the most damning indictment is that it made me want to play the original so much because I could see what I was missing. And in some senses, I think that's arguably a positive. That there's nothing worse than a sequel that sort of pretends that the original didn't exist, sort of thing. Because it's like, well, why are you even bothering? And this game has all kinds of callbacks. There was one, and it becomes relevant in the story later. So I understand why they had to do it. But when they first sort of call back to a particular port that the character gets put into the back of his head in the first game, it's like, oh, I remember. And I think for the most part, that is done tastefully. But the problem is that it's all the game has. The new elements the game brings are just weak, like really, really weak. The good bits are the bits that stand on the shoulders of the original. And I think in this particular instance, that's a bad thing. So disappointed on the whole with this one, I think is probably my takeaway. Neither of you guys have played either of the Steel Sky games, have you?
No, I think I own probably that game in like 6 different formats because it's been given away so much.
It did not sell how they wanted it to. That is for sure.
No, yeah, I think I have both of them on. I think I definitely own both of them on PC. And I will never play them. Let's be honest. Let's be real here. I want to, and I never will.
Play the original. Don't worry about the sequel. I would encourage you to play the original, or even just watch it on YouTube. There's a 3-hour walkthroughs.
Actually, I might do that because it's just a point and click, isn't it? So to be honest, I'm just gonna play it with a walkthrough anyway.
You do miss a little bit of the flavor text, and actually, the puzzles in the original are done very, very well.
Oh, are they? Okay.
If you play it on a GOG or something else, often there are hint systems built in. I know the iOS version that I played back in the day, it's got an inbuilt hint system. And actually, Beyond a Steel Sky has got quite a good hint system built in as well. So credit where it's due on that front also.
Well, I could be convinced to try that then.
Yeah, I should have put that one on for our topic, really, shouldn't I? If I'd known. But definitely play the original. The original's great. The sequel you can safely skip. I actually think it sort of sullies some aspects of the original. Not massively, but a little bit. I just don't think it's worth anyone's time, really. Very disappointed with that one. Playthroughs 4 to 6 of 7 for me are little itch.io experiences that I've had tabs open to play for a little while. And again, when I had a few days off work, I finally made the time to pick up. First of those is a game called Monkey Warp. This is one I think that was nominated for Itchmas and didn't make the cut. It is better than any of the games that were in Itchmas 22. It's a really, really good 20-minute long action platformer. It's in the Game Boy style, although it's not playable on Game Boy hardware. It's just made with that sort of visual language. And you control a monkey who can throw a banana and swap places with that banana. So the banana is a weapon, but it doubles up as a mobility tool. Can be a little bit finicky, but for the length and for the price, well worth experiencing. I had a lot of fun with this one. It does feel not unique per se, because I know there are other games that have done this concept. Daggerhood on Vita springs to mind, but I think the motif and the length and the confidence with which it's done single this one out as worth experiencing. Second of the 3 is a game called TowerBag. This is a tower defense game where you have a single tower and you move it around as you see fit. So it's almost this asynchronous gameplay. If you have to make sure the tower's in the right place, but you also have to take your character and pick up gems that you use to then upgrade the tower. You run faster when you're holding the tower, but when you're holding the tower, it does not fire. So the game is a 10-minute sort of plate spinning exercise, and it nails it. I don't think this would work in a longer game, which is a shame, because I really, really, really enjoyed my time with it. But it is a lot of fun. I think it was a Game Jam game as well. I don't think they made it in very long. So kudos to the team behind that. And then the final game is a little short narrative experience called is it that deep, bro? This is about two guys going to watch Brokeback Mountain in the cinema together and going, homo or no homo? It's good fun. I don't want to say any more and spoil it. If that sounds interesting to you, A, you're right, it is. I think it's a really good concept. And B, find 5-10 minutes somewhere and go and play this. It's got multiple endings. I only saw the one ending. I was very happy with that ending. The writing for this is phenomenal. It's really, really well done. It low-key spoiled the film for me because I've never seen Brokeback Mountain.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's a good movie, actually. There's been much better, queer representation in cinema since, but it was pretty groundbreaking for its time.
For its time, for sure.
It wasn't even that long ago.
No, it's 06. 17 years as we record?
Yep.
Man. And what's his face? Heath Ledger, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then final game. Trying to think of a good pun for this one. I haven't got one. This is another game that was taking up way too much space on my hard drive, or on my SSD, I should say. And it's a game called Unheard. So the concept of this one is you are working with novel police detective tech that allows you to move around a crime scene and listen to the audio as it happened from the sources that it happened at in real time. And so you get to sort of scrub back and forward and move between things. And your job is to match the voices with the people that were speaking, and then also identify from listening to all those conversations who done it, and particular questions about the way the crime took place. This was a game developed in the East. It's got a phenomenally good localization, which has basically involved them remaking the whole game because of the nature of the mechanics. You have to make it work. And unfortunately, there are a couple of DLC campaigns that we didn't get for exactly that reason. It was just too much effort for them to localize those also, which is disappointing but understandable. The game's not especially deep, which is fine because it only takes a few hours. I clocked this in under 3. HowLongToBeat seemed to have it as 4.5-5 hours, but to my mind, that is a gross overestimation of how long it really takes. Because my time included a 10-minute break I took in the middle without closing the game. I played in a single sitting, and I think that speaks to how compelling the setup is. There's something very gripping about watching different tagged sort of audio sources move around a scene and decide, well, actually, do I want to hear how this bit plays out, or do I want to go and see what they're doing over there, and putting all the pieces together. There is an overarching narrative. I didn't think that part was good, personally, but all of the individual cases in and of themselves, very engaging, very strongly done. I actually think both of you would really vibe with this game. I think as a shortish sort of detective experience with a different kind of interface, I think it would be really, really worth playing. Have either of you played this, actually? If you haven't already. Okay.
No, I haven't.
I haven't even heard about it.
But right, and yes, I will stop hitting my desk and making bump sounds. You should have just told me that.
Well,
Alex.
I didn't want to interrupt the thing, but it's fine. No, I'm hearing all these bump, 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 bump. I'm like, how do I say something without just interrupting him? But there you go.
So you have heard those?
Yeah, yes, I've heard those. Oh.
Yeah, that wasn't my best work. I'll cop to that. But the game is good, and you should both check it out.
It sounds cool. I like the idea.
Yeah, same. I liked it a lot. I ended up giving it an 8 out of 10. I feel like I probably dinged it more than was entirely fair for the overarching narrative being a bit weak, but the game is a narrative game, and I think that kind of deficiency counts for more than it would for, say, a Bayonetta or a Mario Odyssey, or a more action-focused game, shall we say. I said Bayonetta very weirdly then. Anyway.
I was going to say anything. I was like, huh.
That's fine. So let's roll into retirements. Could you, Alex, say something about the game you've retired?
Yeah. I didn't have like this is more like, you know, when you get those retirements where you're just like, yeah, we're not gonna beat this. It's like that's the kind of one here where it's like retirement by just like lifestyle at this point. So like my partner and I are playing Gears of War together, and like we've just been so freaking busy. Like it's been insane. The shift she's working on like was insane and nuts. And like at the end of the day, neither of us have really even had the energy to like play games, let alone play Gears of War, which is like does require a fair bit of focus and skill to get through. So we're like, you know what? I have a feeling this is going in the retirement bin. It's still a great game, but I do think the it's not, which is insane. It doesn't feel like it's super well optimized on the Xbox, at least on Series X. It like has moments where you're just like, oh, it crashed. Okay, great. And like we almost got stuck in a second there. And also, it's from the era of poop brown everything. So like my partner's had such a hard time seeing the enemies, which you know that I've been fine because I'm just used to that era, right? Like that was literally the era I like grew up on, like in terms of the time when I could start like really spending my money on games, right? Like that was the era for me. So, you know, it's sort of second nature, but like I hadn't even really realized like how insanely difficult it is to recognize. And also when they fix up the graphics a bit, right? Like it's made it more apparent because everything actually looks better now, but that also means that every scene is more complex, which also means that it's now more difficult to see the enemies because every scene is more dense. So it's kind of a double-edged sword a little bit. Like you have to update it. You just did. Like they did have to update it. Like it was the right choice to make. It's just that, yeah, it doesn't look so hot sometimes. Which I don't really know. Or like as in the sense that like it's really hard to see. It looks good, but it's hard to see. Anyway, that's kind of all I have to say about it. I do hope we will actually finish this sometime because she was really enjoying it while we were playing. Like it wasn't like a case of like not liking it. Like she was getting into it. But I just think realistically, like we're going away well, as of recording this, we're heading on vacation the next day. So we're not going to be playing games while we're on vacation. I mean, I will, but she won't. So you bring the Switch and the Game Boy Advance for her. It's time to play. Anyway, what about you, Rick? You've got fucking hell.
Yeah, and I have actually got a segue into what we're playing. So if you want to jump in first, Paula, give my voice a little bit of a break after all those completions as well.
Yeah, for like 3
you have
seconds.
retired a game.
Yeah, no problem. So I retired Jurassic World Evolution 2, which I wanted to try it out since it was on Game Pass, and I really enjoyed the first one. I have to say the second one is kind of a letdown, mainly because instead of building your park from the ground up and like DNA splicing your dinosaurs to make it like more resistant to illness or like make them more attractive to tourists or stuff like that. Instead, you're just trying to take take back the certain areas of the United States, because I don't know what happened in the movies because I haven't watched them. But it seems they had some kind of dinosaur problem because some poachers decided to say something like, "Hey, what if we bring those dinosaurs from the island to the USA?" Or something like that. It's what I'm imagining. So there's some free dinosaurs. You start in Arizona and you have to record them and put them into cages and kind of like build a park with the dinosaurs you're finding. And that wasn't a lot of fun, especially since you have to manually pilot the helicopter to tranquilize the dinosaurs and manually fire the tranquilizer. So that wasn't particularly fun to me. And there wasn't as much micromanaging as in the first one. So in the end, I was kind of bored because nothing was really happening in the game. Like, come on, let me have my dinosaurs breaking out of the cages, and I have to save the tourists before they get eaten by the velociraptor or something like that.
Give me some
or
excitement.
stabbed by a triceratops. So, give me so what?
Some excitement.
Yeah, you get me.
I get you.
And I wasn't really getting like any excitement for playing these games, so it was like, well, at least I didn't spend any money of it besides the subscription. So, well, it was worth a try, and I was super excited for this one when the trailer came out because I was like, hey, we're getting some sea dinosaur or sea reptiles to put into the park, and we're having like more variety of stuff to make the park. And it's like, no, you actually no. This is like okay, it's easier, but not in a bad way. It's more generic, I guess. It's a more generic city builder, like park builder, whatever builder. So yeah, well, I wasn't happy about this. Rick, now it is your turn.
Now it's my turn. So I've got 6 retirements. Yep, to go with my 7 completions. It's been not a busy week for me. So.
Really?
In every other field of my life, no.
It's okay. Actually, I'm gonna have a March break coming up in like a couple weeks, so I will be you in a few weeks.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So first game is Light Crusader. I did play a little bit of this as part of my ongoing quest to at least try all of the treasure games in their catalog. It's a really generic sort of console RPG from that period of time. It's by no means bad. It's just quite thin. You have one swipe attack and some magic, and that's supposed to sort of take you through these isometric dungeons. I wanted to try it. I think at the time it probably would have been quite compelling, but coming to it now, it was not, unfortunately. So I got to the first boss. I beat the first boss. And I was like, So parked that one. Second game I parked, and I hate to admit it, but you were right about this one, Alex. Unfortunately, it's Crypt the Necrodancer.
Yeah.
Again, by no means bad, but it just wasn't holding my attention. The game does have a bit of a problem where, like, there's an initial progression curve, and then that curve just flattens off. Yeah. You stop sort of being able to get extra stuff unless you progress past a certain point. And actually, when you take away the rhythm component, the dungeons themselves are relatively plain. There's only so much you can listen to the same couple of songs over again. I could see myself playing this if I didn't have other things to play and getting better at it and enjoying it. None of this is to say it's a bad game. It just wasn't holding my attention. I am looking forward to Cadence of Hyrule at some point, because as I understand it, they smooth off the roguelike edges of that, and it's just like a Zelda game with that mechanic for combat.
My thoughts is that this game walked so Cadence of Hyrule could run, because Cadence of Hyrule is an incredible game. This game is a great idea that just doesn't really hold you, you know? It's almost too arcadey.
I think I probably agree with that, particularly on Necrodancer. Obviously, I can't speak to Hyrule yet, but I do look forward to trying that eventually. I have got a copy sat on the shelf somewhere.
Nice.
So that is going to happen. What isn't going to happen is me playing any more of this next game, the Joylancer Legendary Motor Knight. I have had this game since like 2014, 2015. It's been sat on my Steam library forever. It's been sat on my computer forever. I don't remember this being an early access game, but when I went to check the Steam page, it was an early access game. So I don't know how that happened, because as a policy, I generally don't buy early access games. I couldn't get this game to run with more than 4 FPS on the introductory credits. So it's clearly not been well optimized. I got slightly more FPS running it in like Windows 7 compatibility mode. Just not the one. Maybe I'll try again in a few years and maybe it'll run a bit better. Maybe it'll be finished. The Steam reviews suggest probably not, but it's a shame because the artwork looks good. The impressions do seem to be that what little people played of it was quite good, but I don't have that kind of time just to fight with it and get the thing to work. It's just not where I'm at right now. I've got too much fun stuff going on. Similar story again with this next one, Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil. Fucking boring, man. Like, and the Klonoa games have always been straightforward. That's fine. I don't mind that. But so much of this game is padded story that I kept skipping. And then like linear segments with these collectibles that you've got to get. I probably would have liked this game a lot more if I hadn't already played both the Game Boy Advance entries. The benefit of those is that they didn't have this graphical thing to aim for. So everything was squashed down into its core components, streamlined a little bit. You get to the good stuff more quickly. The filler comes out in demaking it onto a handheld system. And the GBA games are fantastic. I recommend them to just about everybody. They're really accessible, nice fun, just good time. It's hard to say that really for the main entry ones. The first one wasn't too bad. The second one, they focused on expanding the wrong things, in my view, and that is to the game's detriment. So I played maybe about an hour. I got past the first boss. I got through the first sort of skateboarding segment, shall we say. And I didn't want to play anymore. Again, it's not bad. It's just not compelling, which I feel like is a through line for almost all of these games. Albeit the last two are a little bit different. So the first one of the last two is Alien Soldier. This is the last of the Genesis treasure games. I wouldn't necessarily say this isn't compelling. The mechanics they have down pat, 2D action, their wheelhouse for sure. What they seem to have done with this is they've taken the Gunstar framework, made the character sprite a little bit bigger, focused on bosses. One of the big negative things they've done is take away the unlimited shots. So your weapons have ammunition. Now, I think what the game wants you to do is rely on the parry system it's got built in. So if you double tap the shoot button, you do like a block thing, and you can turn projectiles by doing that into little collectibles you can pick up for health and I think extra ammo. The problem is when you've got bosses uniquely that you're facing, a lot of them very sort of melee focused, it's not a great combo. And as much as I love that Gunstar framework and the movement feels just as good on this game, I don't really want to fight with ammo limits on this kind of game. I don't know if that's a good thing just objectively, let alone, for me. But I decided after beating the first boss and dying a couple of times to the very melee heavy second boss that I'd seen enough. So that one ended there. And then the last game that I retired, and I've heard nobody talk about this complete left field pick, a game called Spinfrog. It's Kururin. It's that game, but with a frog.
Okay, and the minute you said it, I actually thought of Kururin, and I was like, oh, because that game kind of has like a froggy type. Like, yeah, anyway, that's funny. Okay. And Kururin is only okay anyway.
I mean, Kururin is like an 8 out of 10. It's like fine plus.
Yeah, it's as good as that concept can be. That's what I would say.
Unfortunately, Spinfrog fails to reach that standard for two reasons. The first reason, it has some unskippable story stuff. It's like the Pixel Puzzle Makeout League problem, but for Kururin. And the second problem it has, and 1A on that first problem is they're unskippable, whereas Pixel Puzzle, at least you could fast forward through the majority of it. The second problem it has is, as opposed to being completely top down, the camera is slightly isometric with 3D models. And the problem that causes is it makes it quite hard to judge the spaces you're going through, which is the whole point of that game. The whole point of that game is navigating narrow spaces with a constantly rotating main, character object. And this game makes that needlessly difficult.
That's really stupid.
I agree. I got through 4 or 5 levels. I learned the basics. I decided it wasn't going to get better. And I thought, you know what? Why am I playing this when I could be playing Kururin? The answer to that is I've already played Kururin. What I haven't played, and this is my wonderful segue into our playing games, is the Japan-only sequel, Kururin Paradise. And I've played about 10 minutes of that now. Still great. Doesn't obscure it with the camera. It's easy to play. Obviously, like the mechanics speak for themselves. The controls are the same as the original. There is on Game Facts. Well, exactly. And on Game Facts, there's a brief little guide telling you what each option within each of the relevant menus means and does for you. So very, very accessible as a non-native speaker. And the gameplay is great. It's just more of the same, which if you want that, which I did, fantastic. I'm not playing loads at the moment. It's only 3 games to talk about besides that. The first of those is FF7 Remake. And now that I've finished, particularly Valkyrie Profile Lenneth, this is like my main focus, big RPG kind of game. I've probably played as much of this in the last week as I had in the preceding 2 or 3 months. And thinking back, I actually think a big reason for that is that I played quite a lot. I played the demo for this before it released. The demo is basically the opening hour and a half of the game. And what that meant is it was a bit of a slow burn coming to the full release. It's like, okay, I know what happens here. I've already played this. Blur, whatever, yada, yada, yada. So I played it in sort of 5-10 minute spots and dribs and drabs. Now I'm into the meat of the game past that demo portion. And getting a bit more involved with Sector 7 and Midgar and the characters and the combat. Now I've got a bit more material at my disposal and I can actually juggle equipment and material a little bit. I'm finding much more to compel me to play. It helps that the combat system that they've designed for Remake is really quite good. The camera leaves a little bit to be desired. I have found myself fighting with that a little bit. But on the whole, they've done an exceedingly good job of making that real-time, turn-based hybrid thing makes sense as a unified system. I also really, really like what they've done with Tifa's moveset. She's very, very fast. There's a palpable difference when you're controlling her versus controlling Cloud. It's not like one of those uses a sword, one of those uses fists. She's noticeably more nimble. Very different moveset, and that has a big impact on how you use her. And the enemies react a little bit differently to the different characters as well. So there's layers to that. The side quests are quite good. There's a lot of UI work done to make them easy to follow, which I really, really appreciate. Save anywhere, which I also really appreciate. Graphically, this looks fantastic on a PS4. I will be very excited to play the sequels on next-gen hardware as and when I get it, because I can only imagine that the game looks better again with that sort of bump up in performance. And the music deserves a special mention. The work that's been done to rescore and re-record and to a certain extent update and amend the soundtrack is exemplary. It's fantastic. They've really, really done justice to what was an already great soundtrack and somehow found new levels to which take it. So having a lot of fun with this one, needless to say. Less fun with Hi-Fi Rush. It is a good game. I just think that game benefited massively from being a stealth release and catching everyone by surprise. I found that there's a bit too much platforming and not enough combat for my taste. So the cadence of it isn't necessarily quite there for me. But it is good. It's not that I'm not having fun with it. I do have to say as well, actually, as impressed as I am that it runs on my hardware at all, given, I'm running on a gaming, like a budget gaming laptop from 2016, and this game runs in the gameplay near flawlessly. I've had a lot of audio desyncing cutscenes, which is a little bit annoying. But other than that, PC version is very, very good. And then the final game that I started playing, and this is a replay for me, one of my 4 or 5 favorite games ever, and I'm going to whisper it, probably slightly better than 13 Sentinels. More a matter of, I know, but same studio. This is like
I see.
Vanillaware at their absolute action fighting best. One thing I didn't remember at first, coming back to it, which threw me for a loop for a few minutes, is that you do have to rebind the controls ever so slightly to make them make sense, for me personally at least. Because what they have is you have movement on one of the D-pad or the analog stick. By default, it's the analog stick. And the D-pad left and right is select, and down is use your items, whether they be recovery, utility, what have you. What I'd done last time, what I've done again this time, is change movement onto the D-pad, left and right on the analog stick to select your items. And rather than having that as down, because that is just a recipe for disaster when you're acting quickly, trying to hit left and right instead of down on the stick that's not your primary stick. The shoulder buttons are completely free by default, so moving use item to the left trigger. And it's like putting on your most favorite warm, comfy clothes that are contoured perfectly to your body. I've just sunk straight back into this game, and I'm loving it. It's great. I'm very happy to be there. I think I'm probably going to play. Last time I played Momohire's story first, then Kazuke's, then the DLC. I'm playing Kazuke's story first this time. Then I think I'm going to play some or all of the DLC chapters before returning to Momohire's side of the story. Anyone who's not already played this, it's fantastic. You should have a Vita anyway, but if you don't, Vita emulation on Android is becoming a thing. There is an emulator in the early-ish stages that's actually out there. It's coming. So no excuse. And if you don't want to play it on Vita, don't know why, but it was originally a Wii game, and Dolphin can run on a toaster at this point. That software is just like the most well-optimized thing going. So no excuse is what I say. Paula, why don't you tell us about the games that you're playing at the moment?
Well, I've been playing quite a lot here. So, first of all, I'm still playing Pokemon Scarlet. There was recently a little update where you can catch like 2 new Paradox Pokemon, which are Walking Wave, which is a Paradox Suicune, and Iron Leaves, which is a Paradox Virizion. And I still have up until March 13, I think, to catch them. They're only available on Terra rates, so I have to get someone to host a game on Pokemon Violet to get the Virizion one. And I have to move my lazy ass and actually catch the Waking Wave one. So,
what is a Paradox Pokemon for people like me who don't have a clue about Pokemon?
Let's say there are different forms of Pokemon. Like you have some that are kind of like more, I'm gonna say, rough around the edges, and the others are like more robotic in a way.
Okay. A lot. Really sorry. That doesn't.
So
just think of it this way: there are some that are like oldie time and some that are future-y time, and they're just different forms of the Pokemon.
Right, but it's the same Pokedex entry. It's just like an older or newer.
No, it's a different Pokedex entry.
Oh, okay.
They're new Pokemon, but they're new. They're forms of other Pokemon as new Pokemon.
Yeah.
Okay, good enough for me. Okay.
I think that's spoiler-free-ish, right? How is that?
Yeah, that's why I was dancing around it.
Yeah. Though honestly, if you fucking worried about spoilers in Pokemon, it's a game for 10-year-olds. It's fine. We've been over this.
As you were, Paula.
Anyway, I have to say, these are very interesting in the competitive scene because the Virizion one can kind of like benefit from different. What was the name of this one? It's not the weather, it's the terrain, from the terrain, because there are some attacks that can affect the terrain and give like electric terrain or psychic terrain, and then boosts some attacks from other Pokemon, or like Grassy Train that helps heal any Pokemon that is on the ground. They affect like the soil your Pokemon are battling on, and that in turn affects how the battle goes. And in particular, Virizion is a little bit underwhelming because terrains aren't like as widely used. Like psychic terrain is way more used because of Torchlight's evolution, which is the ghost fire with the sword, which name I forgot, Cerulege, sorry. But that is another kind of forms. The one that is very interesting is Waking Wave, because it can work on different weather conditions in both sunny day and rain, because the thing is, waters are usually weakened by the strong sunlight because water evaporates. But in particular, this one has a water attack which names I forgot, that gets a boost on the sunny under sunny weather. And it also all future Paradox Pokemon has. Is it all Paradox Pokemon or just future ones? They have an ability that helps them like boost a stat, like the highest stat gets a boost under the sunlight. So in particular, this Pokemon is very good under sunlight. But since it is a water type Pokemon and it is a water attack, it also gets a 1.5 boost under the rain. So now we're gonna get into a competitive scene where we have dual weather teams, which is kind of cool, if you ask me. And probably more Pokemon that you ever need to know on your average Pokemon adventure. But I'm a nerd, so let me nerd out about it. On the other hand, speaking of being a nerd, I'm still playing Pokemon Showdown. Not as much because I know what I want my team to be. So that's taking a backseat right now. I'm also playing Fanchante. I haven't advanced much from last time, so I'm gonna leave it at that. But I have been playing a lot of is Chaos Hypnoa, which, by the way, I'm on second chapter hell, in the sense of the prologue and the first chapter were kind of short, and second chapter, I don't see the end inside right now. And this game, now that I have the proper experience with this game, I can tell you what it is about. So you play as
no spoilers, by the way, because I won't be too interested playing this one.
Okie dokie. So you play as this high schooler called Takumi Nishiyo. He's kind of like a Jonin, kind of pathetic in general. And the thing is that there's a series of cases in Shibuya that is called the New Generated Madness. And it happens that he kind of sees one of these cases and he goes a little kooky because he doesn't want to be killed or be related to the case. So everything from there happens like because of what he saw. And other things surrounding it, but trying to keep it spoiler free. Mm-hmm. And right now, it is very interesting. It is not the Steins Gate levels of interesting, but it is very interesting. And since I don't remember the plot from this one, I don't know where the story is gonna go because it can go in multiple directions from what I've seen, which is very exciting. The one thing that will keep people from playing this, besides, well, it's a visual novel that only has like, I'm gonna say selection menu, but it's not quite selection menu. It's more like a gimmick for this game, which is kind of a selection menu, but it will affect like the immediate a scene after it, and then depending on which kind of thing you selected, then it will incline you to one or another route. And I really want your opinion on how this selection is being done, Rick, once you play it, because it is kind of interesting and it is unique in this case.
Okay.
So that's why I'm trying not to say what the selection is.
Yes, please.
And the other thing that will keep people from playing this, besides it being a lot of text, is that it is gory. It is very, very gory.
Heard that, yeah.
Yeah,
so when you say very gory, like what are we talking about here? Because what do you mean very gory? Like, are we talking like, what does this mean? give me an example that's not super spoilery. But you said something bad happened at the beginning. So like what are we talking about gore levels here? Are we talking like mainstream like Saw levels of gore? Or are we talking like body horror, David Cronenberg levels of gore?
We're talking about you see the scene of a crime kind of gore, and it is a very brutal crime.
Okay.
Like
okay, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And there's also this thing where the character kind of like hallucinates some stuff, and you can have good hallucinations, no hallucinations, or very bad hallucinations.
Okay.
Out of the sheer curiosity, I was like, oh, I wonder what a bad hallucination is like. It was very gory, like it was brutal, very descriptive of the things that were going on, and I kind of felt a little bit squishy afterwards because of how bloody it was, I guess, or like brutal it was. And then I had to take a little break after that because I was like, okay, I think I'm not gonna. If I can avoid of scenes, I'm gonna try. But it's not like you can avoid all the war because it is part of the game of it being like kind of graphic and brutal. Yeah, it is. It was something, let me tell you. And I'm on the earliest chapters. I'm not even like close to getting an ending. I imagine that some of the bad endings are gonna be really out there. And I've heard that the patch I got for the game affects some scenes that are in the later game and censors them. So that's gonna be interesting. So yeah, that is Chaos Head Noah. So far, I think I have an inkling of what it is going on, but still have no idea what it is. So it's kind of like, I think I know, but I think I don't, which is nice. And I have to say, waiting for the patch was the best decision ever because they did an amazing job on translating the thing or retranslating the game and having it be like more accurate and less badly redacted, I guess. So props to the Committee of Zero in that regard. And I hope this isn't the last job they do because if the poor translation quality that the original localization from Spike Chunsoft had was any indication of anything, the next game that is going to get localized, that is, I think it was called Occultic 9, which is the seventh game the seventh game, I think, in the mainline science adventure series. Well, we're gonna need a bigger patch for that one if Spike Chunsoft does anything like this ever again. So hopefully they get their shit together. They don't butcher the thing because otherwise fans have to fix it all. And I don't want to like wait again like for 5 months to get the decent localization, but because it kind of sucked. Like I can wait. I have a backlog, but I just wanted to play the game. That's the thing. It's like, do I wait for the patch or do I not wait for the patch? Waiting for the patch was the decision. enough of my rambling. I've also been playing Fire Emblem Engage. I am on chapter 11, if my memory serves correctly. And a little tangent over here. I was just like texting with my boyfriend, and he said, "Hey, you should probably have like a kidnapped section on your what you're playing, what you retire, what games have been kidnapped from your collection, because he has my game right now and I can't play it. I wish I could play more of this game, but he's currently, I don't know how many kilometers away because he's in the south of Chile. And I'm like, just waiting for him to come back so I can play the game again, because I got to a pivotal moment in the story. So shit went south real quick. And now I have to fix the thing. And I want to fix the thing, and I want to continue the story. But I can't. So thank you, honey. Give my game back, please.
Heard of friends
that
blowing
and
it, but
all
great.
the other games he has kidnapped along with it. But yeah, Fire Emblem Engage, so far so good. And this is really traditional Fire Emblem with a twist. And I greatly enjoying it. And I have no regrets of having that second healer, because it was really, really needed. Moving on, because Alex is supposed to be playing this one anytime soon now. This is a silly one, a very silly one, because have you ever guys heard of the game Magikarp Jump for Android?
Can't say I have. Is it like Flappy Bird but with a Magikarp?
No, it's more like, instead of you manually having to make the Magikarp jump, you have to train your Magikarp to jump as high as it can on a contest, on a tournament. So the thing is that I don't know which year it was, but two things were released that day. First of all, a song from the Magikarp song by the Pokemon Company. Like, the Pokemon Company released an official Magikarp song, which pretty much portrays how pathetic the Pokemon is.
Mm-hmm.
The song is amazing. You have to listen to it, because it's like every single thing you care about Magikarp being so useless and pathetic, it is there, and it is amazing. The other thing they released is this game. You have to. There's this village city. I don't know what it is, but they really like Magikarps because of how resilient they are and how they keep jumping, even though everyone says they're useless. And it's like, but you can see that thing. Like, even though people pretty much shit on it and everything, it just happily jumps around in the water. How can you not love that face? Some people would say it's a face that only a mother would love, but anyway.
I think even the mother might turn away in disgust. What I love about the store page for this game is the first picture has a little caption on the corner of it saying it's an official Pokemon game, as though they know that like this is ridiculous. Like, who would believe that we actually made this? But yeah, goddamn. But when you say you play it, is it literally like Pocket Fight Club almost, where you're just doing the training activities and then Magikarp jumps on its own? Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, pretty much. You fit your Magikarp, you train your Magikarp in a random activity, and then you have to and you have to fish your Magikarp, because you get your first Magikarp, and once it reaches its greatest potential, it goes as far as it can go on the tournament, and then it retires. And the next Magikarp you get will be a lot easier to train, and it can train to a higher level. So you have to, generation by generation, train your Magikarps to make them the best Magikarp they can ever be. It is absolutely silly. The engagement is barely there. The art is just something you find in the storybook, I guess, because it's kind of like crayony in colors. I don't know.
The art's surprisingly all right, actually. Like, it doesn't look bad. I think that's probably the nicest thing you could say about the concept, really.
Yeah, but it's just a silly time waster. Like, I was just watching a video and like feeling kind of fidgety, so I just started making Magic Carp Jam and like, okay, I'm just training Magic Carp here. Don't mind me, helpful YouTuber that I'm watching because I need to know something about pencils and stuff. And I don't know, it's something I played the hell out of when it came out and never finished.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I'm gonna finish the game this time around, but I kind of felt nostalgic and it was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna play this again and just downloaded it on a whim and played it. And it's kind of nice. It's just meeting with an old friend, which all it does is kind of jump around. But anyway, now one that kind of surprises me because I wasn't expecting my sister to get a PS5. Not the one I live with, the other sister that I have got a PS5 and invited me to play over the weekend. It's like, oh, you can try out games and play here, and you can come anytime you want to play games. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go. And the fine print was, hey, please help me get through The Last of Us remaster, please, because I'm too scared to kill zombies right now.
That was the ulterior motive. I love that.
That was the ulterior motive. So my sister really wanted a PlayStation where she could play The Last of Us and some other games like Resident Evil and other things that she was looking into. The thing is, she can't play them alone because she's a scaredy cat, even more than me. And that's saying something. So I hope she isn't listening to this because I'm not far from her room. So anyway, and so we're kind of like swapping plays. No, not swapping places. Like we're playing The Last of Us together. I'll grab the controllers from time to time when she's like feeling a little bit scared, or whenever things get a little bit too difficult. So like I was playing a stealthier mission, and then we got into another stealthier mission that was a little bit harder. So I was like, okay, take the controller. This is all yours. And then when we go past that, she gets the controller back. So anytime there's something scary or stealthy, I'm the one playing. Any other time, she's the one playing. And it has been kind of fun to just see her reactions and playing this game together. Though another game that we are playing together, this one is kind of weird because we're playing it both on PS5 and Switch on separate save files, but we're together on both, but with different people on both. So she has only 2 PS5 controllers, so we play that just the 2 of us. We're playing Overcooked. That's the thing we're playing. Overcooked 2. Sorry, I didn't say the name of the game. So we're playing Overcooked on the PS5, and comparing the load times to the Switch it is brutal. Like you don't even get to see the hints screen on the PS5. Like when the loading screen shows you the controller, like some useful tips and stuff like that, and the load times are so short on the PS5 that you can't even get any information out of that, which is amazing. The overall feeling of how you play the game is the same. Like Overcooked 2 doesn't demand a lot of the console you're playing in, so there's no difference there. But since it was on the subscription on PS5, we started playing there. The problem is when we try to play with other people, because she has friends that like playing Overcooked, but they have the game on Switch. We couldn't, because unlike Overcooked 1, this one doesn't have cross-play. So we have to get the game on Switch and then play everyone, the four of us together, which is utter chaos. Like a two-player run is kind of like chaotic in a way, but if you are able to organize with your partner where you're playing, it's actually quite a smooth sail. Unless the missions are like too difficult, and then you have to try to either get a third player or get really good at some point or at some stuff in the game. Like get your timing really right. With four players, any kind of organization goes out of the window. And anytime one of you screams, "Hey, I need a tomato for this sauce," suddenly you have three tomatoes, one's chopped and the other's not chopped, thrown at you. Like, I know I asked for a tomato, but if only one of you went and grabbed the tomato, chopped it, and threw it at me, it would have been a little bit nicer. Now I'm swimming in tomato. Beautiful. The other thing is that since some of these levels are kind of like small, very small, there isn't like a lot of room to move around, you are continuously bumping to the other players, sometimes getting thrown into the river or the abyss. Or sometimes you're just trying to, like, one person is trying to get to one side, the other person is trying to get to the other side, but there's only like one square space there. So you're trying to push each other into the direction you're trying to go instead of like taking turns to like, sir, go first, sir. And then I'll go to the other thing I'm trying to. So in four-player mode, we actually have like half of the kitchen burning because we couldn't like actually take turns to move to different sides of the kitchen. Thus, we just got stuck into a place and we couldn't retrieve I think it was rice. And then someone tried to turn on the fire and threw the fire extinguisher instead, and the extinguisher was on fire, and we have to restart that run because it was like, yeah, this isn't going well. Half of the kitchen is on fire. Everything is a chaos. The extinguisher is on fire. Let's restart this. It's still really, really fun. And then my sister and my nephew were playing, and I was about to just sit down and enjoy sketching a little bit. And then I hear my nephew scream, "Paula, we need your help." And it seems they just couldn't get organized and they needed a third player. It was like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna go play a 3-player Overcook save. Which, by the way, I think 3 players is the sweet spot. Because you get like third player always where hands are needed the most. You don't get as much of players bumping into each other as when there's 4, and we actually didn't have any single fire incident going on. So yeah, 3 is the perfect number for Overcooked 2.
This is one of the few games where actually having been in a kitchen legitimately helps you play this game, because I've played it with friends and I was just like we just had our system going where because you just need names. You just got to be like name thing go, and it works pretty well. You got to develop you have to develop a system, but it sucks because if players aren't used to video games, I remember I talked about this when I was playing with my partner. She didn't have the ability to look in her peripherals. Like she can't see the whole screen, right? She's like super zoned in. And if you can't do that, my God, you got to rely on the person who can actually do that, right? Which I'm sure you're probably that person for them.
It's the kind of game that makes you understand why rowing teams have a person specifically to direct what's happening.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the thing is, I was the kind of like the director trying to get people to do the things and not get everything mixed up. So that's the reason why my sister and my nephew were like, help! We can't do this without you, help! Because my nephew was like still confused on, hey, isn't it the same, the frying pan with the other thing? And it's like, no, it's not the same. You put rice in one and you put the veggies in the other to solder them. And like just that simple miscommunication bit was the thing that cost us the game like very early on. And yeah, so it helps a lot when people are accustomed to working in the kitchen, or like at the very least like being with other people in the kitchen, which I am, which was nice. Actually, no, it's chaotic. When you have to cook for a lot of people, it's fucking chaotic. So Overcooked 2, or Overcooked in general, just depicts the chaos of it like so nicely. You don't throw ingredients around, but
it is chaotic. But I
there's
have
a
to say, like, because I used to work in a kitchen, right? So like, and I was one of the ones who had to like I was basically directing people like what to do, right? Because I was like the more senior one. Like obviously I'm working too, and I'm like cutting things up and stuff. But I'm telling you, when you get like a rush, you know, of tons of people coming, and you're this well-oiled machine where you're like, you know, like Andy, fries, like everybody going on to it, and then you're like popping things out like in this like order, dude. There's a high to that is what like high level, like when you succeed at Overcooked, that's what you're trying to get at. And it's like it's the high of like efficiency, honestly, and like well organized efficiency. And when you can hit that, it feels really fucking good. But it takes a long time to get there, right? And most of the time when you play Overcooked, you're not going to get there because there's always one motherfucker who doesn't know what to do and gets overwhelmed. It only takes one person to fuck up to ruin the entire thing in Overcooked. Like, it literally just takes one.
Especially if you want those 3 stars.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that's Overcooked. I'm still having fun, even though it is chaos. And another game that the following 2 games, I think there are PlayStation 5 exclusives. One of them is Demon's Souls. So I tried playing Dark Souls. I haven't gone back to playing, but I somehow didn't die at the first boss. And I still haven't died in my playthrough. But here, I died pretty soon. So Demon's Souls is more like you have these half-worlds from my understanding, and then you go to different bosses, or like different areas that lead you to different bosses. And the thing is that the first one is so fucking tanky. And also I was like, hey, I'm playing a mage on Dark Souls 1. So maybe if it's similar, maybe I'll play a mage on this game, and maybe I can attack from a greater distance like I'm doing on Dark Souls 1, and that's part of the reason why I haven't died. But anyway, the mage is kind of pathetic like early on. Like you still get your sword so you can do melee attacks. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna try the spells. One of them is Water Bell. I'm still not sure what it does, but it kind of like gives you like a water bell thingy around your character. And that's all I know it does. It doesn't seem to diminish the amount of damage you take, because I'm pretty sure I got stabbed just as strongly the first time and the second time. So I don't know what it does. The other spell is a fireball, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna throw a fireball at my opponent. That's so cool. So I'm like charging this fireball, and like the character kind of throws it into the ground like a little bit, like a meter in front of them. And I'm like, what kind of fireball is this? It's more like throwing out it is more like the flask throwing, no, the fire spell that Robin has on the Super Smash Bros. Is something like that. So if you're playing Dark Souls, if you're that close to an enemy and trying to throw a spell, sorry, Demon Souls. If you're in Demon Souls trying to throw a spell, or like trying to attack an enemy that is 1 meter in front of you, you might as well use the sword. why would I waste my mana and leave myself open to attacks trying to throw this fireball? And it was just pathetic. Like,
I think that's the
sorry,
point.
but
They don't want you using the magic.
yeah, they don't want you to use the magic, but in Dark Souls, it feels like they want you to use the magic.
Yeah, I think that's
Anyway,
the thing about, because Demon Souls is the first, right? And I think in that one,
yeah.
it very much was like they're not interested in you using magic, right? They're like, you need to fight in that one. There's no out in Demon Souls.
Yeah.
Like, whether that's good or bad, there's just no out. You just gotta fight.
Yeah, but I was kind of like, okay, the combat is cool. The combat is just Dark Souls, but still Dark Souls, like mainly Dark Souls. But the magic, I was hoping for something more spicy. But no, Paula doesn't get to have spicy and fun things anymore, I think. But the game looks gorgeous. It plays well. I don't know what the hell people are talking about when it feels like clunky. Maybe updated in some of the mechanics, but I haven't gotten far enough to even notice that. And again, I haven't played the newer Souls games, so I have no point on comparisons. I'm just having fun. Or at least I was having fun until I got to the first boss and it kicked my ass. And I actually, since in the first game you're not supposed to fight right like the first boss until you have like better equipment, I was like, maybe I could escape. No, you can't escape. But I did manage to chip down about 25 of its HP until I time badly. I rolled at a wrong timing, and it killed me because the thing, this first boss, it swings the sword and nearly one-shotted me, and I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be fun. So I tried to beat it a couple of times. It was like, nope. So I switched to another game, which is a lot more, a lot less stressing, I guess. So I went to play Buster's Playroom, which is the game that comes with every and any PS5. And it's actually a lot of fun. It is lovely. Like the little robot thing is lovely. And sorry, I am driven by cuteness. So anything cute for me is like that carrot on a stick kind of thingy. And I can see Rick type in the next episode title, I guess.
Pretty much.
And it is a very good platformer. Like is it a platform? Yeah, it is a platformer, a 3D platform. And I've been having a lot of fun with it. I played like 1 hour maybe, so I think I'm halfway through maybe. And it really showcases what the PS5 controller can do, which is kind of neat. Though I don't think a lot of games are gonna use all the technology because it is kind of pain in the butt trying to program all of it. But it's still a lot of fun. And one of the levels has you as a monkey, like climbing through some I don't know what they're called, but you seen those climbing walls that has like things protruding out of the wall and you grab onto them?
It's just a climbing wall.
Yeah.
There, yeah, but it's kind of like you're climbing a climbing wall, and it is fun because you feel the resistance from the controller, like when you're firing your bow. You have that resistance when you're trying to pull the string like further back, and it's kind of fun. So since I don't know, I really like the motion, not the motion, the rumble blast on the rumble HD, however they call it on the Switch. I'm really digging what they're doing with the rumble, whatever they call it here on the PS5, and I also like that more of a kinetic feedback that the controller gives. but I'm kind of sad because the controller kind of like, it feels like those trigger buttons have a lower life expectancy than the controller itself, from what I've been told. So let's see how long those controllers are gonna last. And those are all the games that I've been playing. Alex, take it away,
Damn.
please.
You two have had some beefy sections today. I definitely don't have as beefy of a section here. We're gonna get through this pretty quick, I think. So, I've played a bit more of Dead Space. I really haven't been able to play like a ton more since the last recording. Like I'm maybe halfway through the game, I think, at this point. It's still like it's beautiful. It's controlling really well. All of the added stuff, like because I'm pretty sure. Again, it's been so long because I know Isaac didn't talk in the first one, and it feels totally natural here that he's speaking in this one now. Like you don't notice at all, and I mean anyone who didn't play the originals is gonna have no idea that he didn't do that because it seems so weird for him to have not spoken.
Yeah.
It's working a lot better because I think it's already creating a stronger connection with his wife. Because he's just a person now, you know what I mean? I also think something that I think this game really benefits from is the knowledge of where this story went afterwards. Because I really do think like when they first made this, they had no fucking clue where the story was going. You know what I mean? They had no fucking clue. There might have been like a general idea or whatnot, but it's like you don't know because like I don't know, with most art, and especially I think with video games, you're lucky that you get to make that game in the first place. You know what I mean?
Let alone a sequel, yeah.
Yeah, let alone sequels to it. So I can't blame them for not having like, you know, a big old like probably plot charted out. I mean, who knows? Maybe they did, but I think in terms of like, well, I guess also you don't necessarily know what elements of your story are going to resonate the most with your audience, right? So there's things you might introduce in a game that then you sort of abandon because it's like, oh, no one really got that or no one really gave a shit about it. And like, that's not what was like actually kind of interesting about our game. So in this one, they're really playing up a lot. And maybe it was like this in the first one, but I'm noticing it way, way more. Just the special kind of church element of this one, because there's like this certain church in this that does something. Who knows? Play the game, you'll find out. And they're really playing into that a lot more, and there's just like a lot of more interesting information. And also, like I think, I don't know, the elements of this game that I think could have felt outdated, like you know all the audio logs and stuff, they actually work nice here, and like they're really good at being able to just play while you're still moving around. Which I really appreciate. I fucking hate games that make me open up a like, you know, little dashboard thing and be like, okay, now you can listen to this recording that we have and just sit there and go on your phone while you listen to this fucking audio recording. And I'm like, yes, thank you, game. Like, allow me to pick up audio recordings and continue walking through the area so that I can... Right? Yeah. I'm like, thank you. And don't like stop when I like pause the game or some shit and then be like, oh, I guess you didn't want to listen to the rest of it. Bye. BioShock. But fucking look at you, BioShock. You fucking BioShock. You fucking stupid fucking audio logs. Anyway, they started it, so they get my hate and love. But yeah, so Dead Space. It's good shit. It's I don't know. I bet for some people it's scary. I'm well past the days of this being able to frighten me. That being said, it's certainly spooky and it's got like cool ideas in it, but you're not gonna be scared. It's fine. Well, I don't know. I guess if you get scared by like maybe Resident Evil 1, then you're gonna be in a bad shape probably. Actually, I guess if you're scared of The Last of Us as well, seeing that one, you're fucked with this game. Like your sister would be fucked if she tried to play this one. No offense, Paula's sister, but like I don't know. I just think if you're a survival horror fan, you're gonna be more. It's like less about scares and more about tenseness, right? And like creepiness and kind of like, you know, body horror, right? Because it's a lot of body horror in this that's not necessarily like frightening. It's just more unnerving, and the combat is definitely tense because like, man, it's those things are fast, and you know, this isn't a game where it's like, you know, it very specifically says like headshots don't work. right? And that's the reality of this. Headshots don't work. You got to cut their limbs off. That's how you kill motherfuckers in this game, which I think is that in and of itself is the most genius design decision in this game, because it takes survival horror, because really this is like the best survival horror game Capcom never made, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very much obviously from like, you know, tank controls and all, although not really that. It's not tank controls necessarily. It's just third person, but like more like the modern. Actually, it's interesting. I would almost say that the modern Resident Evil feels like it might have taken lessons from Dead Space in some ways in terms of its movement and its gunplay, because they're actually pretty similar. Like the remakes actually play exactly like Dead Space does now. And Dead Space's controls and stuff haven't changed that drastically in the remake, besides the like gravity stuff and things like that. But you were never locked in place when you were shooting. In Dead Space, you could always move while you're doing that, which was pretty new for those games. So anyway, fun times. Highly recommend. Very good. I haven't touched Hi-Fi Rush. I just have not been able to play a lot of Xbox games, and when I have, I was playing Dead Space. So I will finish it. It's just like I need that week off that I see coming. Xbox is back in my life then. Mario and Rabbids I've played a bit more of. I'm super close to finishing. I'm on like I think the second last world, maybe the last world, because there's like a bunch of different worlds. Still fun. Best played in short bursts, I think. I really don't think this game benefits from playing like really intensely through, because again, combat is a little varied, right? There's like different requirements in each one, but more than not, it's pretty similar, right? Like each one is like, yeah, you're doing kind of the same thing. The worlds are sort of fun to explore, but again, they have very similar missions in them. So yeah, and super loose puzzling, right? Like the puzzling in these games is not like, it's not The Witness, let's put it that way, right? It's like, it's, you know, it's good, it's totally fine, but it's pretty basic even by kind of Mario standards. And again, I don't blame them for that though, because like, I don't think it would have behooved this game to be this complex puzzler. But I'm not sure that it struck the right balance quite yet. It still feels like the puzzles might be just like a little too simplistic. So, and again, though, I really don't know. Like, I don't know what the happy medium is. I'm sure they play tested the shit out of it. I found that this worked best. Excuse me. Goddamn. Been a long week. But yeah, anyway. I already talked about Rusty Lake Hotel. The one that I've been playing the most actually is Pokemon Scarlet. I'm basically done. I've completed all the missions. I just have like the final things to do. So like I completed all the open world missions and stuff. I have some thoughts on this one. It gets a lot worse the more you play it. And this isn't necessarily Scarlet's fault. This I think is the fault of a lot of open world games. So I'm not sure that it's really, well, though part of it is Scarlet's fault, but this is also part of it is just the fault of Pokemon in general, which is that once you have your Pokemon team and you've got your Pokemon evolved, it's just grinding from there on out, right? You're just fighting things to level up until you're done the game. And this is the problem with all Pokemon games, I think. And I know people will be like, oh, but you can do this and you can do that. Like, you can do Nuzlocke and shit. And I'm like, yeah, but you got to fuck off, man. That's just shit that you're making up for that game. That's not in the game. Like, yeah, I can fucking grab a piece of toilet paper and I can make a fucking game out of that shit. But that doesn't mean the toilet paper is a well-designed game. It's fucking stupid. Like, that's like a nonsense thing.
What an analogy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It just doesn't make it like I'm like I don't buy that as an argument. If your game is like, I don't know, say fucking like now what I will say is a fine argument is that you can say yes, the game has allows you to do lots of things. That's fine. Like yeah, sure. There's a lot of like options for playing, but really all the options is that you can choose the team you want. It's not actually as crazy of a diversity of options as one might think, right? It's like you still have to just play the game, you know? Like, and it has as it is. Now, in terms of the open world is neat, but what I soon discovered is that it's open world-ish. All the areas are level gated, right? So, and then they're also gated by progress, by ability to climb and like ability to like do things with your guy. So like, I guess it's open world, But it's not really, because ultimately you're going to have to do certain ones in certain order. I would say the variance that you can get in this game is like by one or two areas, right? Like there might be like one or two badges that you could complete out of order. There might be like one or two like Pokemon fellas you could do. So yeah, you can, and again, you can make all these arguments, right? Like you can say like, oh yeah, but you know, it's totally open world because you could just like grab this Pokemon who's like really like, you know, really good against this gym leader, and then you could like train that Pokemon up, and then you could go and do that. And I'm like, yeah, but that in and of itself is not supported in the game whatsoever. That's not how the game plays. The game asks you to catch Pokemon. So you catch Pokemon. You then go through and you battle. Then there's not many trainers. The trainers are fucking spread out. It's hard to find them. You do some of that. Then you go and you fight like a gym or something. That gym levels up your team, right? So you're not incentivized in any way, shape, or form to actually get interesting different Pokemon. You really want to keep the Pokemon you have because if otherwise, you're kind of fucked because you need that team to be strong. So the idea that this game is like really, truly open world, I think is kind of not accurate because in a lot of games, the idea with the open world is that you really can't explore all of it. You might find an area, like a little spot that's a little too hard for you to take on, and that's fine. You come back later. But that's just not really how this one works because you know where everything is. It shows you right away where everything you can find is. So really, you're just on a homing mission for each of those things. It literally does not understand, I think, the fundamentals of an open world game. Because usually the concept with open world is that you get to go and explore the world and discover as you're playing, right? So, like, let me give you this example. You're playing Elden Ring, right? And you're going through, and you stumble on an area that you're like, oh, I could do this. And then you get your ass fucking whooped, right? And you're like, holy shit, that was hard. I better come back later. But in this one, so in that sense, though, you discovered it, right? And you learned, oh shit, that was hard. Now, in this game, all you're doing is you put an icon on something, you travel to it, and you're like, I'm here and I'm ready. And then you're like, oh, fuck, I'm underleveled for this one. I'll come back later, right? There's this fundamental difference in that. And it might not seem like a big one, but it is because really you just have a checklist and all you're doing is you're going to each one and you're figuring out, am I ready for that one yet? Oh, I'm not. Okay. I'll mark that off the list. Am I ready for this one? Oh, no, I'll mark that off the list. You know what I mean? It's different. It's a really different feeling. And it's not satisfying. It feels like a checklist instead of an exploration of a world. So I was really disappointed by that. And I'm still liking it. I still think it's fun. But I'm really hoping that they learn some significant lessons from this. I'm really glad they did this. I'm really glad they tried this open world aspect. But I think what's like very much missing from this is that it's the open world sucks. It just sucks. It's a bad open world. It's a really bad open world. And there are probably secrets and things, but who gives a flying fuck? There's nothing to do in the areas. Do you know what I mean? Right? Like it's one of those things where it's like, sure, maybe there are secrets, but for example, in Breath of the Wild, there are secrets, definitely. And you're hella incentivized to go find those things. And you want to explore them because that is a really dense world in there. And they don't tell you everything that you're going to find in it. They allow you to go and discover those things on your own. In this one, and I use the example actually, like take the first Pokemon game, right? The very first Pokemon game. It does this beautiful thing where, yes, it's a linear path, but every single area you go through is unique and fascinating, right? There are all these trainers who are going to stop you. Look at all these cool new Pokemon. It's dense and interesting, right? And it's designed. Sure, it has its flaws, but most of us remember, and I would argue most Pokemon games, especially in the 2D area, if you ask people who played those, you can really remember what a route looked like, right? You remember that area. You're like, I know that spot. There's one cool area in this, and that's a big frozen mountain, which I actually think is pretty cool, and was a nice thing. But it's a big, fat, fucking open nothing in this. That's what it is. It's just nothing. It's just nothingness as far as the eye can see. Actually, because you can't see far. Yeah. You also have a horrible draw distance, so you can't really see shit. So it's just grasslands, right? Oh, here, look, here's a lake. Now, the really cool thing is that the Pokemon are all there. That's fucking awesome. I love that. That's really, really cool. But I think they're banking on the idea that Pokemon being in the open is somehow making their world feel populated. But it doesn't. It makes it feel even emptier because there's nothing to see along the way. Yes, sometimes you see like maybe a windmill or something. Cool. Or there's a tower that for some reason you can climb. They have, okay. This is the example of how this fucking game seems like they looked at open world design and went, open world games have towers. We should have those too. There are, for some fucking reason, towers in this game. They don't do anything. There's a little treasure chest at the top. They're just there. Is it so that you can get a view of the surroundings? Surroundings of what? The draw distance is 3 centimeters. I can't fucking see anything. I don't know that there's some shit in the distance. Why would you literally put in a thing to highlight how shitty your game looks? It's so fucking stupid. It's so fucking stupid. This game baffles me at every fucking turn. And then I'm still having fun. And that's the fucking thing that, like, it's what drives me nuts about this game, is that it's like the moment-to-moment experience is enjoyable. And like there are really interesting ideas. Like the gyms are really fun in this because you do these like gym tests and that's really neat. These Titan Pokemon things you do, that's pretty cool. The Team Star is, like, I would argue actually kind of neat. It's like Saturday morning cartoon villain concept that I'm like actually sort of dig. It's like about bullying and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm fine with that. Like this is a message for kids playing it about being bullied and shit. You know what? That's cool. And you do these like weird raids the raids are pretty fucking stupid, but it's fine. You do these little raids and they all drive a big fucking car for some fucking reason. It's really fucking stupid. They all have the same, this is so dumb. They all have the same Pokemon as their boss Pokemon. I'm like, oh yeah, that's inspired. You have 400 fucking Pokemon in this game and you're going to use the same one with a color change. Christ. Anyway, so yeah, there's that. Yeah, and you know what here's the reality. They're going to learn fucking nothing from this. Cuz Pokemon Company learns jack shit from any of their games. Yeah. They never ever have they've never fucking learned anything. Okay? Because they've never have. They just do shit. They just fucking do shit in games. They just fucking do shit. They have like a Battle Frontier and everyone fucking loves it. And then they're like, well, we'll never do that again. And then like they try it one more time and they're like, there you go, folks. And you're like, you made it worse than the first. How did you do that? And they're like, and then they move on, right? And they're like, this time you could terrestrialize. They could be little fucking crystals. And you're like, yeah, that's really cool, man. Why do I play these games? I don't know why I do this, and they get you because the marketing is so. You know what? The marketing is so good. They're so fucking good at their fucking marketing. That's the issue. Everybody gets into them, and you fucking want to play them. Anyway, I do, and this is that gets to the weird part. I do recommend you play it though. Like it's actually fun, and I think it's interesting to look at. And if you have, let me put it this way: if you have kids, this is a perfect game to get them into Pokemon. I do think this is like a great game to get started in on it. It's just baffling how this was made. And it doesn't have any excuse like it's groundbreaking because it's fucking not groundbreaking. Like I see people talk about how it's groundbreaking for Pokemon. And I was like, I am sorry, but you do not get to claim that your game is groundbreaking when it implements game design decisions from 20 years ago. Fuck right off there, fellas. Shit's not groundbreaking. Shit is fucking behind the times. But anyway, there you go. That's my other Pokemon rant.
You can move the camera.
Oh shit, that was my other fucking thing I wanted to talk about. The camera is so fucking ass. Holy hell. And you really notice its ass when you play like a scripted battle, because in the scripted battles, the camera is really good because it's scripted, right? So when you do an attack, it like zooms in and it's like dynamic. Half the time that I battle, my Pokemon disappears. I can't see my Pokemon because the camera's like, oh, you're on a hill. Would you like to be in the hill? And I was like, no, I don't want to be in the fucking hill. What are you doing? No, stop. And it's like so bad. You're like trying to like move the camera so that you can like see where like both the Pokemon, and it's the most boring combat. There's an excellent fucking video that I can't remember, but look up something like camera Pokemon Stadium or something like that. because it talks about actually why Sword and Shield, I think, why their battles felt so milquetoast, and I would argue is the same in this one, because the lack of a dynamic camera that's actually like, you know, going through it makes the battles look really stupid, because it's literally just like one Pokemon and another one standing there going beh, 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 like that, and there's no like interesting following of the camera. Now, they give the caveat that in Stadium there was very few Pokemon, so every move could be really special and dynamic, but it doesn't even matter. Like, even the original Pokemon games, yeah, you didn't have the camera, but like your Pokemon were like doing things, so like there was a dynamism to it. There's no dynamism in this one unless it's a scripted battle. Then it is actually pretty dynamic and interesting. So yeah, thanks, Paula. All right, that's it. I still took less time than most of these, so I count that as a win for myself.
I always knew you had a proper rant in you.
I always do, especially with Pokemon. We have next week will be the last Pokemon rant probably. So yeah, because I'm almost done. So anyway, why don't we move on to our little? This is gonna be a big one. We're just gonna be real. This is a big episode, folks. But you had short episodes the last few weeks because we had new game pluses. So you know,
we see you. We're making up for the time lost.
Exactly. So, we did this once before. This is called Recommend Me a Game, take 2. So the idea, I think, with this, and I don't know, actually, we all might have different ideas for this, but at least the way I took this is like, I'm trying to find something that, like, one, I think has elements of like a style or a genre that y'all like, and then also something that you don't, or something that maybe you just haven't given a chance to, or is just not on your like list right now. So that's kind of like what I did, because I went and tried to look through your completions, retires, and all that stuff, and or like that, and I was like, okay, they're not on your backlogs, they're not on any of that shit. So that's what I kind of went for that. Yeah,
I did the same. I have to say, I've gone for stuff that I knew you both like, because last time I suggested you both play ET, so I feel like I've got ground to make up there.
I should say I do think you both like these two. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
One slight aside before we get in, Paula, looking at your playthroughs gave me anxiety, because you have 45 currently playing games on HowLongToBeat, and I don't really know how or why. Is it just games that you started, and as long as you haven't finished, that's where they live?
Yeah, pretty much. Funny you say that, because I had like a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago, I don't know. Someone from the HowLongToBeat forums messaged me and asked me directly, "Hey, I noticed you have a shit ton of games on your playing tab. Do you actually play all those games at the same time?"
And I can confirm you don't, because Citizen Sleeper is on there, and if you say you've played any of it, we'll know you're lying.
Oh yeah. Although Rick, you gotta pick a new one.
That is
like
a game that I wanted to start and I forgot to take it out.
I can't pick a new one until
you gotta pick a new one.
The old one.
She's not gonna give it up.
Okay.
We'll pick that up after we've recorded anyway. So I am first on the list. Does that mean I'm throwing my recommendations at you two first?
Maybe do one first, and then should we do like 2 rounds like that? Do you want to do it that way?
Yeah, fuck it.
Nice.
Okay. In which case, I'm going to start with you, Alex. I've picked a Metroidvania. I know you like those.
I do like those.
I've picked an Alien game, because you've played Aliens Isolation and seem to like that. I've picked for you the oft overlooked way forward Alien Metroidvania, Aliens Infestation. This sees you on the Nintendo DS playing as a group of space marines. I forget the specifics of the story. The story's fine, but the gameplay is really, really good. So you have flamethrowers and rocket launchers and pulse rifles and all that stuff, and you're fighting the enemies. The cool conceit of this game is, in any given playthrough, if your marine dies, they're gone for good. And you can only have 4 space marines like saved at any one time. So you have like a central hub that you can access at various points on the map. Whenever you find and recruit a marine, they go back to your hub, and you can choose which marine you want to go out with at any one time. If they die, they're done. You have to play as a different marine from there on. It's way forward. They know what they're doing with sort of 2D pixel art stuff. So the look is fantastic. The feel is great. The aliens are always a genuine threat. as well as sort of the lower level stuff and the face huggers and stuff like that. It's just an excellent action game. Really good Metroidvania. Nice length. It's one that people sleep on, and given your like for the source material and the genre, I thought that was a good pick.
That is an interesting one. I think I might have this on my like DS or something. Like I think I've seen this one, and like or at least heard of it. But it definitely sounds up my alley. I like that. Aliens Infestation. And it's not very long from the looks of it either, huh?
Only a few hours. I think I clocked it in like 5 or 6. Main story and main plus are 6 hours on HowLongToBeat. Completionist is 6.5. If I look at my listing, I got an 8-hour completionist run.
Oh wow! Nice.
I think I restarted a few times not to lose the Marines. I Fire Emblemed that shit, but that's probably where the extra time comes from. But yeah, 5 to 8 hours I think is a really fair reflection of sort of timing.
Sick. Well, I'll have to pop that on there.
Nice. How about if we do it then? If you do your recommendation for Paula, Paula does hers for me, and then we'll go back again the other way around.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That does make sense. That'll work. Okay, so the one that I recommend for Paula, actually, so I'm recommending. Hold on. Have you played Yakuza Like a Dragon?
I haven't.
The new one. Okay, yeah, the new one. Okay, good.
I'm
good.
brave.
Yes. Wait, that is the new one, right? No. Is that the RPG one?
Ishin is the newest
one.
Yeah,
that's the RPG one.
Good. I forget all of them. Okay, so yeah, I was recommending Yakuza Like a Dragon because, so I was torn between this and Zero, but I wanted to recommend this one because one, I know that you're a huge fan of RPGs. And so this one in and of itself, I think when it comes down to like the Yakuza series and just realistically knowing how many goddamn games you play and and how many games you have on your lists, I know that like me recommending Yakuza 0 is kind of a non-starter because then you'd have to play all the other Yakuza games. That's just not going to happen. But Yakuza Like a Dragon really truly is a standalone. Obviously, it has some like callbacks to the rest of the Yakuza series, but you really can play it without having played the others. And I think this one, personally, I think it's exactly up your alley because you've got tons of the Japanese fucking influence stuff in there, and this game is as Japanese as they come. Plus, it's a celebration of like all of like the some of the most famous JRPGs. Like really, it's like heavily Dragon Quest inspired. The story is fucking hilarious. The voice acting is incredible, whether you play in English or in Japanese. In fact, the English voice acting is extremely good on this one. And so is the Japanese. I mean, up to your choice, right? And yeah, I just think it's like the pinnacle of modern JRPGs, to be honest. It is so fantastic. It really, I don't know. It feels, it's hard to describe the way that this game is because it's such a wholly sort of unique JRPG experience. And I think it's a crime you haven't played any of the Yakuza games because I really think they are directly up your, especially because you play all these otome games and all these visual novels and stuff. I'm just like, man, this game is just like wacky visual novel played out. Like that's what this is. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Yakuza Like a Dragon. It's on Game Pass.
And on Game Pass as well, right? Yeah, there you go.
It is on Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I'm gonna try it out sometime soon. Nice. Whenever I'm at my home because my portable PC doesn't like handle games too well, so
and it's a pretty beefy boy.
Yeah.
But I bet your portable PC will handle Citizen Sleeper just fine. nice lightweight game, that one.
I forgot my controller at home. I was gonna play it, I swear.
You don't need to play with a controller.
Don't be silly.
It's better without a controller.
Really?
Yeah, it's a text game. It's like a visual novel, basically.
Why didn't you tell me that sooner?
Well, we told you that ages ago.
Sorry. Listeners at home, I'm dragging my hands down my face.
Well, what are you recommending to Rick then, Paula?
Okay, so I did a cheeky little thing, and I actually have 2 recommendations for each of you. Because I knew if I just arrive with an otome game, you will just roll your eyes and say, okay, the next one.
So we've got an otome and we have a recommendation. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that is very much it. Don't say it like that, you meanie.
Sorry, go on.
No, I'm sad.
Sorry. Oh,
We're just teasing.
Anyway.
Go ahead. We might play it. You never know. I like some otome games. All right, go ahead.
Actually, okay, this one is Tariq or this one's to Alex? No,
Tariq,
Alex
sorry.
recommended
Yeah.
me. Tariq, sorry. So, my first recommendation, I actually saw it in your backlog after the fact, so I am sure you are already planning on playing it, but I would rather you play it sooner so we can discuss it in the podcast.
okay.
And that is Fire Emblem Awakening. I think it is right up your alley. And again, this is I think one of the better modern Fire Emblem games. Not that I have anything against Three Houses, but anyway, and it is a very good starting point. Even though some people say, but it's not the old school Fire Emblem. In my time, permadeath was a thing that you couldn't avoid and things like that. But because of you can play like any difficulty and you can play either casual or classic. This is a very the overall map design for this game I find is one of the better ones. It is a very good starting point. And I don't know if you can hear the dog barking in the background.
We can hear the dog.
I am so fucking sorry.
That's okay. Dogs are welcome here. They bark when they bark. It's just how it is.
It's just going to be woof for the audio.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
That one wasn't bad. That wasn't bad.
It's better.
So yeah, I think you really enjoyed this one.
I think I would. The problem is I've got loads of SRPGs to play. Like, I love the genre, and so I've bought quite a lot, and they've just started stacking up. And I'm borrowing Awakening, so I kind of do need to eventually give it back to my brother, who I'm borrowing it from. But as you say, it's in my backlog. It's one I absolutely.
Oh, you're a game kidnapper too.
I am a game kidnapper too. His copy of Breath of the Wild is another one that I've given a temporary new home. So let's 180 this, then let's go back around. Oh no, hang on, you've got an otome for me as well. Before we do that,
yeah, I had to think about this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I went with a sillier one.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Because I think you would really enjoy the humor in this one, and that is Cupid Parasite.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, I think that's probably based on how you've described it. I think that's probably a fair assessment of what would work better for me.
Yeah, and I think mainly because like their characters are very bright and silly. Like I remember, I don't know if it was Rick or Alex the last time we played an otome that said there's really just one option for you to pick in this game. No, you have 6 different options here to pick from.
That's what I like.
And the game is just a blast, mainly because it is rom-com and it doesn't take itself too seriously. And I don't think there's a lot of puns, but there's a lot of humor that I think you would enjoy. So yeah, that is my pick for you.
Interesting. Okay.
And
let's 180.
Then, who is it? Rick that recommends something for me, or
yeah?
Okay.
So we're about to go back around the circle. So I sort of had 2 recommendations for you in the sense that I almost recommended Dragon Quest Monsters, because that did the whole open world Pokemon thing like 15 years before Pokemon tried to. It also has the benefit of doing monster fusion, not dissimilarly to how Shin Megami Tensei does it. I never finished this one, but not because it's bad, just because I got distracted. It's quite fun. This isn't my recommendation because I actually had a bit more of a think. And I'm instead going to recommend Lost Dimension. So this is on the Vita, which is always a good shout. Beyond that, it is an interesting blend of sci-fi, Danganronpa, and Valkyrie Profile. It takes Valkyrie Profile's system more or less wholesale. So you are in this sort of turn-based real-time hybrid combat where you move your character in space rather than on a grid. You have attacks, you have combination moves. It's a really deep, compelling setup. What compounds that is the fact that on each floor of this tower you're ascending, one of your group of teammates is a traitor. And through engaging in battles in that round, you find out who that is. That is randomized. So the team synergies that you're building, the characters that you're leveling up, the way that the story blends with the people you do and don't have, completely changes each time. And to see the true ending, you have to play it a second time, so you have to see it structured 2 different ways. I think it's a really cool setup. I actually think the combat is arguably slightly better than Valkyria Chronicles. It's a little bit different, so I don't think it's quite a direct comparison, but I do think on their merits, I had slightly more fun with Lost Dimensions combat. And this is a game that's criminally sort of under-discussed, underrated, and given that's fair, I think this would have been a decent recommendation for you as well, Alex, if you haven't already played it. It's a game that anyone who likes those 2 franchises that I mentioned is absolutely going to vibe with.
Yeah. The thing about this game is that I've looked into it and it sounds interesting. I was actually this close to buying it like a couple of years ago. So I really see that I see why you think it's a good game for me, and I do think it is a good game for me, but now I have to find it or find it on the 7 Seas. That's the other option.
Wow,
So
that's pretty easy.
Download it for free on Vita.
Yeah, I have it on Vita for free, actually. I have that backlogged.
Tangent. PKJG low-key saved my life. I meant to talk about this when we were talking about Muramasa, because you can back up saves in a way that you can't with PSN anymore in a hacked feature.
Really?
Yeah, so I've got a 64 gig memory card in my Vita that's slowly starting to play up. If a game becomes sort of corrupted on it, your only way to move it around is to delete and reinstall it, short of rebuilding the whole database. And if you do that, generally you lose your saves. But Save Manager, back that save up, delete it, reinstall it through PKJG because PSN plays funny now. Restore that save back up, you're off to the races. Hack your Vitas, people. Have to do it. Anyway, sorry, you were about to. That's also easier than it ever has been. You were about to recommend Alex a game, Paula, I think, and an Otome.
Yes, I am. And also I'm going to look for a Lost Dimension because I think I saw that game for really cheap over here.
You can get physically back to, yeah.
Yeah. Alex, one thing that I'm worried about is that I already recommended this game to you. I don't know if in an episode.
If you did, I won't remember.
Or in the prior time we did this. And that is, since you are also a fan of tactical RPGs, is Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor.
I don't think you recommended this one.
I'm not sure.
You've talked about this one, but I don't think you recommended this one to me.
Well,
specifically overclocked 3DS one over the DS one, as you were.
You can pick the DS or 3DS version. If you'd rather not have your eardrums suffer from a particular character's voice, which I don't particularly like, I would go with the DS version. And sorry, that was bad press immediately. But
I basically subtweeted. I just typed 3DS in our chat. I wasn't going to highlight it, but it's happened now. Anyway, sorry, pal. I'm going to stop derailing you now.
Sorry, I just noticed Devil Survivor is DS. Funny.
Exactly.
And where was I? Oh yeah. And sorry. The thing about it is that you have your characters that you move around the map, but each of the characters you move is one of the summoners, like the ones that summon the demons, and 2 other demons that accompany them. You can really mix and match your characters and demons however you please, which gives and you can obtain other characters the further you go through the game, which gives your main party a lot of customization. You can customize it however you want. I was trying to look for a word which probably doesn't exist.
Customization.
Customizations. Thank you.
Welcome.
And sorry.
No, don't be. Your English is
killing me. My English is failing right now.
Don't apologize. Don't be silly.
So, And the thing is that every stage is really like well planned out, which I really like. And you can choose you can pick both the characters you use and the path of the whole story path you're going through, depending on your actions. And I really like how the overall like aesthetic of the game, because usually on Shin Megami Tensei you play on a post-apocalyptic world. Here you're in the fucking apocalypse. Like you're seeing it happen firsthand, the first row, and you are part of it. And what you do with this new information is up to you.
Cool.
So all different endings like reflect different things you could do in this scenario, which is really fun. It's really fun, and I love it. So yeah, I think you would greatly enjoy this one.
I mean, it does sound up my alley. That length makes me want to cry a little bit, but it's like 43 hours. I'm like, it sounds pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, I might have bought this when the 3DS had those huge Atlas sales. I think I may have actually purchased this one. If not, I might, go sales.
It went well cheap on the eShop at the back end of the life.
Yeah.
But again, download it for free if you need to. Like, if they don't want to keep supporting that ecosystem, they don't need your money.
Nice. Oh, and what's the otome? What do we got? Hit me.
So this was
hit me with your
difficult one to find, like, to decide, because first of all, it has to be well rated. So like half of the indie ones, like all the indie otome games went out the window.
Oh, okay.
And it can't be historical fiction because you sniff out the bullshit on it immediately.
Yeah, probably.
So I had to think, okay, Paula, think. Oh, mystery. Color Malice. That's the one I'm recommending to you.
Oh.
Only because of how the X-Day cases go and how the common route is like super short.
Oh.
So yeah,
you are speaking my language a little bit here.
The common route is super short. Like it is like a prologue more than a chapter. And then you go immediately into pairing up with one of the other guys that is trying to solve the X-Day cases, and you investigate one or two of the cases together. And if you ever want to know or like play all the routes, you don't get like a lot of repetition. You get like very different.
Interesting.
You don't get repetition in the sense that maybe at this point this happens, and then this other point this other thing happens. The only thing that kind of matches up in every route is that you start, I think, at the beginning of December, and then you end near Christmas. But that's the time frame you're given to investigate the X-Day cases.
So it's a Christmas game. I think I know when I'm playing it.
Yeah, it is part of a Christmas game. And again, another thing that bugs a lot of people is when there's underage characters. So everyone here is an adult.
Nice.
I don't think there's kind of like a shota each character, but it's more like Blink more than an actual shota. And
I didn't get all that reference, but okay.
Sorry. A very skinny guy more than a shota.
Okay.
But yeah, like there's like this interesting case that I think you're gonna really dig. That's a thing. So that's my recommendation.
Nice. That probably out of all of them, because I see it's only 10 hours, which again, that's not bad for like basically a novel. So this one, there is a chance, actually, I would say.
Yeah.
If we ever do a Tome again, I would probably do this one. Okay, back to me for my last one.
Don't give me hopes like that if you're gonna like just pull the rag out.
It is on Vita, so that gives me a lot more opportunities.
Yeah.
All right. So for this one, so long as there's no objections, I think you're going to enjoy this game. So, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. I thought about this because, as you know, I am a incredible lover of the Ace Attorney series, but I know that you don't like Ace Attorney, but I know that you do love Professor Layton. So my recommendation is Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, and the reason why I think you'll actually like this one is because I know that your main issue with Ace Attorney was that there's a lack of kind of internal logic, like a consistency of the logic.
Yeah.
But Professor Layton is all about internal logic, right? Even if it's kind of wild and crazy, those games are about having a consistency to them so that things all kind of play out. So the thing with this game is that this game takes all of that from Layton and overlays it with Phoenix Wright. So what you end up getting is the really fun courtroom shenanigans of Phoenix Wright, but the investigations are all Professor Layton puzzles. And Layton even comes into the courtroom to make sure that there's consistency and logic within it, because he's the one who's all like, we must use logic, boy, kind of deal. He's basically Sherlock Holmes before the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles happened. And it's, in fact, like what I think is neat about this game is it is in both parts one of the best Professor Layton games and one of the best Ace Attorney games, which is saying something, because the Professor Layton games kind of go downhill a little bit later. And this one, I'd say, is extremely fun. I had a blast with. And in terms of like Professor Layton or like Phoenix Wright games, the length of it is like, it's longish. It's like 24 hours for the main story. But that's adding into the fact that you don't have any, like, the 24 hours is literally combining all the good parts of Ace Attorney with all the good parts of Professor Layton, right? And minusing out any of the stuff that's kind of like in between. So that's my recommendation, because I actually think you would dig this one if you give it a shot.
The reason I'm low-key laughing is that is another game I've stolen off my brother.
Oh, really?
And I think the cartridge for that and Fire Emblem, I think they're actually like with each other.
That's amazing.
It's just a beautiful dovetail that neither of you could have known you were making happen.
Yeah, I had no idea. But that's good. You should do those ones then, because yeah, I think, and it's a handheld, right? I do genuinely think you would probably enjoy this one. Like, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Oh, I borrowed it. I think I probably will as well.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nice. Well, yeah. Who'd have thought we'd have actually all picked the same ones? Now, to cap off this big ass episode, let's all play How Long to Beat the Game. So let me. Oh my god, my dog is licking my hand so ferociously right now. I don't think anyone can hear it, but she's just like going to town at the moment, which probably means she wants food from me or something. Okay, so I actually already rolled, because I believe it's my turn. And so the game that you are going to be guessing the times of is The Lord of the Rings Conquest.
Ooh.
Conquest.
Is that the PSP one?
No. This is a... I believe this one... This one is the one that it's like the Battlefront Lord of the Rings. It was like a Battlefront 2 style game. And it actually was made by the same studio that made Battlefront. Battlefront 2.
Okay.
Yeah, made by the same studio that made Battlefront. Here's what I'd like to just, before you start, or if you already have searched things up, have any of you seen the platforms for this one yet?
No.
I was literally just looking at that, and unfortunately, I have spoiled that one a little bit. Was that going to be your bonus question?
Well, I was going to ask you how many platforms has it been released on, but if you've seen that already,
I've spoiled that one as well. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. What have you not spoiled? That's the question. Okay. Here's what I'm going to ask. So, this was released on Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, PC, and it had a baffling Nintendo DS release that is like entirely different from the game itself. So the question that I have for you is, how many people on How Long to Beat have been polled as having played the Nintendo DS release? Actually, you know what? Not the amount. What percentage of people have played the DS version? the percentage.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, so the percentage of the total pool of people that have played it.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Okay.
Yeah, we haven't done that before, so I want to know that. Yeah, this game is pretty interesting. It's I think fairly rightly maligned. It had a lot of interesting ideas in it. It just ended up being kind of like bleh. It's not like a horrible game by any means, and with friends, it's actually pretty fun. It's just kind of busted in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Like it's not balanced well, and like, yeah, it's just I don't know. It was one of those games that you could have an absolute blast in co-op because it is basically just Lord of the Rings, but with Battlefront. But then the problem with that is that, you know, Battlefront's all about shooting, right? And sure, you had the Jedi that you could come in with, but let's be honest here. It was bad. Like, I love Battlefront 2, but the Jedi fights were rough. And the only reason they worked is because you were a hero, right? And you were jumping around like crazy and you're swinging a lightsaber like a madman. But then if you have, you know, warriors who are using swords, it looks really stupid when you start to do your fighting because they're just kind of like, and like not really hitting each other. It wasn't great. Okay, I think I just got them both in here.
Mine already in. I'm just looking at a DS playthrough, and it's actually remarkably okay looking for a DS title, whether it played anywhere.
Yeah, it's bad. The DS one, it looks great, but it had a lot of baffling decisions that were made on it. But anyway, okay, let's go here. So for the main story here, Paula says 6 hours, and Rick said, okay, 6 hours. You both said 6 hours. So you both get a point. Because it's exactly 6 hours. So you are correct.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You two were spot on the money. So let me mark that down. So Paula got 1 there. Rick got 1. And just before we got into this, the score was me 6, Paula 5, and Rick 4. So we were all pretty darn close. So Paula has said main plus is 8 hours and 30 minutes. Rick says that main plus is 7 hours. The actual time is 8 hours. So that one's going to go to Paula just by half an hour.
Those pesky half hours.
Yeah, those pesky half hours, they will sometimes do it. So that puts Paula at 7 so far. All right, for 100%, Rick has said 10 hours. Paula has said 10 hours and 30 minutes. The time is,
your face tells me it's 10 hours, 30 minutes.
It's 10 hours and 30 minutes. So that point goes to Paula. But there are 2 points to be gained here, which you never know. That's going to be interesting. So Paula has said for the DS, so I was saying, what's the percentage of players who played it on the DS? And Paula has said 1.2%. And Rick has said 5%. Wow, that is interesting.
What's the specific percentage?
Yeah, it's not the correct percentage. Did you say 1 or 2%, Paula, or is that 1.2? Because you have 1,2.
1.2.
Okay, that's fair. Maybe use commas. I don't know.
Doing point percentages?
We use commas.
I mean, you can, I guess, but there's no point percentages on the site. So, but
Really?
yeah,
Go down.
That did save you though, Paula, because the percentage is 3%. Which means Paula is 1.8% off and you're 2.
Give it up. Give it up. No. I want 2 points for that. That's bollocks.
Well, here's what I could do with this. Because that's so close and they don't have these 0.1 percentages on the site, I think it'd be fair to both give you a point for that. Because I think you both, I think you technically tied on this one. Because I would say that is 1% and 5% that you guessed, essentially. Because I'm going to round down. So yeah, we're both fair with that? I think that's fair.
I'm happy.
We're both fair. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so then that means that the scores now are actually still anyone's game. I'm still obviously at 6. Paula's at 9, and Rick is at 6 as well. So Rick and I neck and neck there. And Paula has a bit of a lead with the 3, but that could change next week. Thanks for sticking in for this 2.5 hour episode of the How Long to Beat podcast. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
What a marathon. Oh my God.